So I believe that we're all only given one precious life. For those of us who are really lucky to be born, it's a life to be embraced, a life to be used for good, and a life that's worth prolonging in good health. Now, when we're all very young, we assume that our parents and our grandparents, all our loved ones, will be around forever. But then we learn that that's not true. I clearly remember my daughter Madeline, here she is. When she was 4 years old, I was putting her to bed, and she said, "Daddy, will you always be around to protect me?" Man, it even almost brings a tear to my eye right now. I think anyone who's been a parent knows how this feels. And I said to her, I had to be honest, I said, I'm sorry. One day, like everybody, I will grow old and I will die. And I watched her eyes well up, and she gave me a really big hug. But then I told her, I think what we all tell our children, which is just don't think about it. And so she did. What we need to do, of course, is to keep us healthier for longer. So I'm not talking about living for 500 years. I see that sometimes quoted in the press. But what I am talking about is an ability for us to live into our 90s and our 100s in a healthy way. Well, let me tell you about the work that I've been doing a little bit, about how I think we can get at the root cause of aging. So in 1999, I started a new lab at Harvard Medical School. I was 29 and figured I could change the world. It was really exciting. We soon discovered that there are 7 of these longevity genes in our bodies. We call these the sirtuins. So the sirtuins have risen to scientific prominence. There's thousands of papers on these now. And what we've learned is that they seem to protect our body against diseases of aging. So for example, if you put extra copies of these genes into yeast and little nematode worms and flies and mice, they do a lot better. In fact, in most cases, they live longer in a healthy state. So what we need to do is to figure out ways to tweak these genes, to make them more active. And in that way, we might be able to delay all the diseases that we get as we get older, and possibly even reverse aging. So let me explain what the sirtuins do in our body. And I've been very fortunate that the TEDx people have helped me make some videos here. There's a new idea about aging, and that is that as we get older, genes are switched on and off in the wrong way. So when we're young, there's a beautiful symphony playing, but as we get older, the instruments, the orchestra starts to play willy-nilly and screw things up. So if we zoom into the cell, you'll see a chromosome, and if we stretch out the chromosome, that's the DNA, all twirled up there in gray. The pink blobs are proteins called histones that the DNA is packaged in. Red means the gene is off. The problem during aging is that chemicals come in and stick to the histones and turn the genes on. So that's what the green lights mean. This gene that should be off in the brain of my grandmother is now coming on, and that's a terrible thing. And if this gene happened to be a gene that told the liver to be a liver cell, and now it's on in the brain, you can imagine the problem. And that's what we think may be a large part of what happens during aging. This leads to a really important possibility. We used to think that mutations, these irreversible changes to our DNA, are what cause aging. But in fact, if it's this what we call an epigenetic change, that's reversible. So let me show you how we can reverse it. So these sirtuins, they actually make proteins that I'm going to show a cartoon of. It's going to look like a Pac-Man. And what the sirtuin proteins do in our body is that they clip off these chemical groups, see? And now the gene that was on in the old person, green, goes off again. And that's what the sirtuins are doing in our bodies right now. They're stimulated naturally when we don't eat and when we exercise. And if we eat a large hamburger, we shut them down again. This is not good. So what we wanted to do was to find a way to turn the system on, find a molecule that could be taken in a little pill and turn on these sirtuin enzymes. And thereby we could clip off these chemical groups and keep these diseases of aging at bay and keep our whole body healthy. And we might even one day, in theory, reverse aspects of aging. One 10 years ago that we found, which got a lot of media attention, was from red wine. It's called Resveratrol. And don't ask me to say that again. That's a hard word, Resveratrol. And so Resveratrol, as you probably heard, is in red wine. Now, the problem with that is that you'd need to drink about 100 glasses of red wine a day. No, I don't recommend that. Don't do that. And what we've discovered is that resveratrol really does bind to that Pac-Man and sticks on the back of it and makes it chomp faster. And that is how they all work. We were surprised. We didn't realize that resveratrol and these drugs would all work the same way, but they do. It was amazing.